This kit has been in my stash for a very long time, well before I started this channel, even before the Richelieu kit, I think. Anyway, something that I used to do back then, as soon as I got a kit, was glue the hull together. Despite the impression that viewers may have formed of me by watching my videos, I can be quite impatient, and the problem with gluing the hull together is that it takes a long time for the glue to dry. When starting a new kit, I always found it a bit frustrating to do the first quick and simple step of gluing the hull together and then having to stop and wait a few days for the glue to dry. And yes, Trumpeter, this is the first step, not the last. To avoid this frustration, I would glue the hull together immediately while building my current kit, so that when I started the newly arrived kit, the glue would have had plenty of time to fully cure. In this case, several years. This is why you saw me removing a fully glued and partially sanded hull from the box. Since I started this channel, I've stopped doing this. That is why you saw me glue together the hull for HMS Hood, and also why you saw me impatiently not wait long enough for the glue to dry and the problems that caused. Before I do any sanding or filling, I want to see how bad this seam line is. The easiest way to do that is to spray it with Surfacer. This is Mr. Surfacer 500. As you can see, the seam is quite good. This is substantially helped by the flat and smooth hull being very easy to sand, and not least by the upper and lower hull pieces fitting together quite well. In fact, this seam line is in such a good state that I'm not going to cake on the surfacer with a brush. I'll just flood the area with the airbrush and sand it back. While the surfacer is drying, I'm going to work on the molding seams on the lower hull. These seams are quite large and unsightly, but they can be easily removed with a 240 grit sanding sponge. The 240 grit sanding sponge quite badly scuffs up the plastic, which then requires a few passes of the 400 grit sanding sponge to get it back into a reasonable state. At least a state good enough for surfacer. Now for that impatience issue again. The surface on the seam line probably hasn't fully dried, but I have the sandpaper out and I'm ready to go, so it'll have to do. It's just dry enough to sand, but it is definitely still soft. The consequence is that the surface is removed faster than the plastic and a slight divot appears along the seam. I knew this would happen. Impatience just makes it go slower. I now need to put on another round of surfacer and try again. This time it is much better, but still not quite right. I think I'm sanding it too much. I guess I need to do another round of surfacer. When it comes to working with hulls, this is the easiest one I've had. A flat, smooth hull with very little detail on sight, with a few details being replaced with photo etch, so are safe to remove. As nice as this hull is for this part of the construction, it is rather boring, and as you know, I have to complicate things. But that is for another video. I want to get the deck on, so I need to prep for that. The first thing to do is to open up the Hawse pipes. I like how I opened them up on the HMS Hood model, so I want to repeat that here. The Hawse pipe openings on USS Alabama are quite a lot smaller than those on HMS Hood. Their narrowness on the deck is going to complicate things. At least the openings on the hull are easy enough to deal with. To open up the Hawse pipes, I'm going to start with a drill bit and a pin vise and slowly make that hole bigger until I can get a needle file in and then ease the plastic away until all the filler is gone. Similar treatment is given to the deck openings, but their narrowness does not leave much space for the file, so I have to drill multiple holes and then hack away at the plastic with a hobby knife. After doing that for a bit, there's just enough space to get the tip of a needle file in the gap and to begin slowly removing the last of the excess plastic. During this process, the ends of the plastic chains got destroyed. That is not a problem. I'll be replacing them with metal. Actually, while I'm here, I'm going to remove more of the chain so I can fashion the path for the metal chain into the Hawse pipe. Now that the deck and hull opening are, well, open, I can see how well they align. By pushing a small drill bit through the deck opening, I can scratch a mark onto the plastic inside the hull above the hull side opening. This plastic needs to be removed, and it looks like a job for the needle file. In this area, I am not concerned about precision. I'm looking for two things. Firstly, I don't want to cut all the way through the plastic and make an extra Hawse pipe opening. And secondly, I want there to be a clear, straight path between both openings. Once I've convinced myself that there is enough of an opening, I ram a plastic anchor into the Hawse pipe to check its fit and alignment. As extensive as the FlyHawk Super Detail upgrade kit is for this model, it doesn't have photo etch anchors, which is a bit disappointing. But I have photo etch kits for USS Missouri and USS North Carolina, and I built those kits before I was opening Hawse pipes, so I might have anchors that I can salvage. Normally I would just look through those kits to find out if I have them, but I'm writing this script as I'm flying on a plane to Dakar, so you'll have to wait for a future video to find out if I have them. Anyway, after a bit of back and forth, I'm happy with how the anchor is sitting. That means it is time for putty. Putty straight out of the tube is too liquid and sticky to mold, so for now I just need to get it built up in roughly the right place. While the putty is firming up, I'm going to go back to hacking details off the deck. Almost the entire deck in this model is going to be covered by either photo etch or a wood veneer. That means that almost all the details need to be removed so that everything sits nice and flat. The upside of this is that I do not need to be gentle, I just need to be careful not to remove a few details that I need to keep. The first step is to brutally hack off as much of the plastic as I can with angled clippers. While doing this, I don't care if I gouge the plastic deck, it will all be covered. Once the clippers have done as much as they can, I turn to the top of the bar file and continue the attack. As with the clippers, there is a lot of gouging. This is fine. For the details on the deck where the wood veneer will be placed, you might think I'm making a mistake by removing the detail. As many of you will know, wooden decks are cut such that the details can protrude through. However, in this case, the extensive detail upgrade kit replaced just about everything on the deck. Removing these details with the delicate veneer installed will be far trickier. That is why I'm doing it now, and that also means I can be as rough as I like and gouge the plastic because what is left will be covered. As much as I don't care about the finish of these decks that are going to be covered, I don't want small pieces of ripped up plastic making bumps in the photo etch and wooden deck, so I give the plastic a once over with a 240 grit sanding sponge. Before I claim that the plastic deck is ready for installation, there's one thing I need to cover. The manual marks out multiple holes that need to be drilled out for deck fixtures. I have not done this. That is because most of the deck fixtures will be replaced with photo etch that will not need these holes, and if the holes are open, they will become a pain to fill. For the few holes that are needed, I'd rather drill them out after the veneer is installed so I can be sure that they are perfectly aligned with each other. So, I didn't forget to drill the holes before I installed the deck because I was being impatient. I did it for a good reason. But I was impatient to drill out the hose pipes in the semi-dried putty, and I forgot to press record. As you'll know, I forget to press record from time to time, so once again, I'll leave it up to your imagination as to what I did. To assist you, this is not the final shape of the putty. That will only be done once the deck is on. Hopefully I will remember to record that. The other thing that I did was to bulk up the putty on top of the semi-dried putty to get a better seal with the underside of the deck. Oh, and if you're wondering about why the putty is semi-dried, yes, I was being impatient again. My glue of choice for larger parts like the hull and deck is Revell Contactor Professional. The metal applicator tube makes getting the glue down very easy, and once it is fully set, this glue is very strong. To install the deck, I start with the bow section, just because it feels right that the bow should come first, and then uninstall the stern section. I like to do the bow and stern deck sections before the middle section because it's more important that they line up well with the hull. The middle section can be massaged to fit, especially if it's going to be covered with veneer like it will in this model. As the bow and stern sections are placed in their position, I tape them down with masking tape to ensure that they sit correctly. Now for the middle section. Let's see how bad the fit is. It is always a bit off. Oh, guess not. That's a first. Okay, moving on. I want to make sure that the superstructure that overlaps the bow and stern sections of deck isn't flapping around, so I'm going to glue them down using extra thin plastic cement. Apart from the deck, there's one other plastic component that needs to be installed, these plates that go along the top of the step in the hull. These parts are a bit frustrating. I understand why it was molded like this, just so they could mold these oval plates, but for my model, they'll be replaced with photo etch, so they need to be removed. That means that the entire purpose of this step in my build is to make this gap slightly narrower and to somewhat help me position the photo etch replacement plates. Sticking with the theme of this video, I was once again a bit too impatient to remove the hatches and I overfiled the first strip. After that, I lifted the strips onto a block of wood to give me better access and I was able to remove the plates without further damaging them. Back to the hose pipes. I remembered to press record. The putty has been drying for around a day now, so it has developed a hard shell. The center is still soft, so I need to be careful or I'll damage it. The task at hand is to better shape the openings, especially the deck openings, so they get a smooth transition from plastic to putty. As before, the putty out of the tube is too liquid and sticky, so I leave it to dry for a few minutes before I begin shaping it. While the putty is still very soft, I shape it using paintbrushes wet with lacquer thinners. Once the putty has stiffened up a bit, I can shape it with a toothpick, and after a bit of back and forth, I'm happy with their shape. I forgot to record again. This is what happens when you take a break from filming. You forget the basics. This time, you'll need to imagine me installing all the plastic strips I used to make extra thin plastic cement and fill the gaps with putty. I also marked the locations of all the oval plates with a marker and then drilled a hole in each of them so that when the hull is surfaced, we still know where to place the hatches. After all of that, I moved on to what you see now, a few rounds of sanding and filing to get the surface ready for surfacer. Once I think the seams are properly filled, give them one last thin layer of Mr. Surfacer 500 before giving the whole hull a once over with 1000 grit sanding paper. The last thing that I want to do is drill out the openings to the chain locker for the anchor. This is a simple matter of starting with a small drill bit and slowly making my way up through larger and larger bits, being careful not to overshoot the plastic. With the chain locker and hawse pipe openings complete, all that is left to do is test the fit. Everything appears to be working nicely. In the next video, I'll add some detail to the very bland hull by etching in some panel lines. If you don't want to wait for the scheduled release of videos and want to watch them when they are uploaded, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. If you would like to support the channel, like and subscribe, and as always, questions are welcome in the comments. Thank you for watching. Cheers.